go, Brandon, but we all know what the saying means.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
You know what they saying, ho?
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
You know what they saying, ho?
Let's go.
You've actually got to scan a QR code to enter the store. So look at this. You're in London, you're on a business trip, you're staying in Greenwich, and you want to buy some food. So you go into the local Aldi's, like this one, and you think, I'm going to go in here and buy some food so that I can feed myself. And then you approach the barrier, and look, you can't even get in the shop without having a QR code to scan here, or to scan here, and then you can go and buy things.
We're working out.
Now this looks to me like the beginning stages of the digital prison that we keep talking about.
Dang.
What do you think?
Yeah.
That's crazy, folks. And it's going to be coming everywhere. In China, you've actually got to scan a QR code in order to start your car.
新能源插电混动 CR-V， 每购买一台新车，车主都要进行一个实名认证，绑定车辆位置以便于服务。但是最近有新车主跟我反映，有实名认证不好用，就像这个样子，识别不出二维码。这个时候不要慌啊，也不需要换任何配件，把智导互联的插头和天线全部拔掉，重启一下，然后插上去，打开导航屏，再重新进入认证页面。此时我们可以看到一个正经的二维码，可识别的二维码。然后用微信扫一扫进行扫描，输入车主实名的电话号和验证码，点击我的用户信息，此时可以确认认证绑定成功。
That's pretty nuts. And they also got a system in place now in China where you don't even need your card, you don't even need to scan a QR code, you don't need your cell phone, you don't need your credit card, you don't need anything. All you need to go shopping is your face.
Face recognition payment in China. This is something that will scare a lot of Westerners, but this is a norm in China now. You don't need your card, you don't need to bring your phone. You just need to scan the item you want to buy, and the machine will scan your face. Then the money is deducted from your Alipay or WeChat Pay. That is so convenient.
Crazy shit, folks. Really crazy shit. And the guy's saying, oh, this might freak Westerners out, but it's so convenient. What these people don't know is what happens when you scan a QR code. Personally, I've never scanned one because I don't know what it says. I don't know what this language is. It's like asking me to sign a contract that I can't read. That's what scanning a QR code is like. You're giving it all your details, but I can't read this language. I don't know what it says. This is computer language. So what does it really say? What really happens when you scan a QR code just to identify yourself? What sort of information are you giving that establishment when you scan a QR code?
So check this out. I'm blocking out with this piece of paper and this pen certain keywords that you don't want on your Instagram just because it puts that stupid thing to cdc.gov. But look at this QR code. The QR code that people have holds a lot more information on them than they may think. Okay, this is Canada's QR code, but many countries have the similar thing. Look at all the information it has on you. Religion, organ donor, driver's license, marital status, non-essential access, reserved for future use, so that's a thing that they're going to have more info in the future. Allergies, gender identity, smoker, sex. Are you a firearms owner? Are you a restricted firearms owner? Do you have any warrants? And then look at this. What's your credit score? How many accounts do you have? How much do you owe? What did you make this year? What did you make last year? This is how much information that QR code will have. This will be the social credit system on steroids, if not a carbon copy of it. And this is what people is being imposed on. That's being imposed on them. And the only power this has is the power you give it. If everyone refuses, good luck with this system, man.
Well, that sounds all very convenient, doesn't it, folks? All very wonderful that they find out all this about you simply by scanning a QR code. You shouldn't be scanning these things, folks. I've never scanned a QR code to get in anywhere or to do anything. I've never once scanned a QR code. I don't even know how to scan a QR code. But yeah, that's the world that we're moving into. Well, that's the world they want to move us into anyway. Whether they will be moving us into it, well, that's going to be up to the decisions we make. However many people think, oh, you know, it's them doing it to us and we've got to blame them. and sit there and point the finger at them. You know, people do this, folks. They complain about all this stuff. They complain about the government. They complain about LGBTQ. They complain about all these things. Worried about this, worried about that. But they're not dealing with the situation on the ground where they live.
Hi everybody, this is Todd. Welcome back to my TikTok channel. And today I want to tell you what not to do. Now first and foremost, all those cameras that are up around intersections that are watching people, do not take a slingshot with a rock and shoot them. They're glass. You'll break them and they won't work properly, so don't do it. One of the other things you should definitely not do, you should definitely not destroy any of that 15-minute city infrastructure. Don't do it. You'll get in trouble. That infrastructure is there to make sure you live in a comfortable 15-minute city. Do not destroy any of that stuff. You really shouldn't do that. Now, every single camera you see in any intersection or anywhere will actually have a little doorway, a little box, so somebody can access that camera in order to work on it or fix it or whatever. Now, every one of those has a little keyhole access for the person to put the key in and turn it. Do not go to the store and get spray foam insulation and spray that into the keyhole. Don't do it. Now, every single 5G tower that you see all over this country will have a little building right beside it. That is the building that controls all the electronic components and houses the wiring going up the tower. Now, whatever you do, do not set fire to that building. And I'm going to tell you why. If you set fire to that building, the insulation inside the cable going up to the tower is highly flammable. You will burn that entire tower to the ground. Don't do it. Do not start any fires in those buildings that are around the 5G towers. Don't do it. Now, I am personally worried that I might have inspired other Canadians to harass the CBC News if they see them on their street. Please do not harass the CBC News if you see them. Don't do it. And I'm going to tell you why. From my own personal experience, at least 1 out of every 1,000 people in my comment section is really upset that I did that. So don't do it. Do not harass the CBC if you see them in your town. Don't do it. Now, something that you should definitely not do, do not take dirty motor oil and mix it with sand and then put that into a water balloon and then throw that at any critical infrastructure regarding the 15-minute city. I'm going to tell you why. The oil and the sand will get in and absolutely destroy any of those cameras or any of that equipment that they're using to bring you into a loving, just fabulous 15-minute city. So do not do that. I'm warning you, don't do it. One of the other things you should definitely not do, you should definitely not become proficient with a firearm or a bow. You really should not take any time out of your life to be able to use a firearm properly or safely. The government does not want you knowing how to use firearms. It's for your own protection. So I highly recommend do not get out to the range and do not practice endlessly with your firearm to become absolutely an expert at using it. Do not do it.
I'm going to talk about all these things that are happening with LGBT and all this everything. I mean, I'll bring you all the information of the stuff that they're doing to us because I want you to see where they're taking us if we don't stand up and stop it. But I think we can stand up and stop it, and ultimately it's up to us to do it, folks. That's the thing. It's up to us to do it. It's so beautiful here. It's been raining the last few days, raining for a couple of weeks while I've been away. And so everything's very green. But yeah, I bring you this information just to alert you to the fact of where they're going to take us. But we can stop it, folks, because they're just pushing it in every country. They're now bringing out the UBI in Finland. They're going to trial the UBI. I think they're trialling it in some places in England as well, possibly some places in Canada. But they're trying it in Finland. Interesting. They also want to bring out EV everything, basically. They want everything to go electric. They're banning coal system being used in Finland by, I think, 2030. No more coal-powered stations in Finland. They want all wind farms. They want everything electric. Electric everything, folks, electric vehicles, electric this, electric that. And the electric vehicles, I mean, you're never going to actually be using these things, folks. Here's an electric vehicle in China, decided to accelerate by itself and... Interesting results with that.
It's very interesting.
See, they do this sort of stuff, folks, and there's so much wrong with electric vehicles, but they do this sort of stuff so that you'll see how dangerous they are. People are probably going to use them still, but not for long, because you're not going to be able to afford them, and you're not going to be able to afford to run them, because we don't actually have the power grid to be able to run an electric system. I mean, a system powered by electric cars and electric trucks. We don't have the grid to be able to run this, folks. One guy tried to set up a trucking company and convert everything to electric, and they just laughed at him.
Just so we're clear on the scale of the issue, each electric vehicle battery for a heavy-duty truck weighs 8,000 pounds, and you need at least 2 of them. So we're talking the weight of, 4 or 5 cars. And my friends and peers in the industry nationwide who've tried to make efforts to put in, say, hey, I'm going to convert a dozen forklifts to electric, or I want to tee up a facility for 30 electric trucks. There's no power. The utilities come back, the cities come back and say, is this some kind of joke?
What?
Try to put in Illinois a facility
Craig, go
up for 30 trucks electrification. The city came back and said, this is some kind of joke.
Go to the other
You're asking
bathroom
for more
if you
draw
gotta
than the
use it.
entire city requires. And just to give you an idea, 30, 50 trucks, that's like a 5-6 megawatt application. The factory that makes the trucks is a 2 megawatt.
What? Go ahead, Clyde.
Factory.
Yeah, so you're not supposed to be able to use these things, folks. What they want to do is they want to have you in your little 15-minute zones, and you'll be using the electric system provided by the government for transport. Because, of course, you only need to go within your 15-minute zone. So there'll be little trams and trains and stuff that run around the place, perhaps little shuttle cars that run around the place that you can get that won't operate outside your 15-minute zone, but you won't own one. You just walk outside and pick up a car that's parked on the street, scan it with your face or your QR code, and then tell it where to go. It'll take you wherever you want to go. You just leave it there. You grab another one to come home. You kind of treat it like your own car, but you leave it parked on the street so everyone else can use it. That's the way it's going to be. You're not going to have your own vehicle. And, of course, if they put these vehicles in place, I guarantee they won't even go outside their 15-minute zone. They'll have little GPS trackers on them. And once you get outside your 15-minute zone, it'll tell you that you've got to turn around, or it'll just take control of the vehicle itself, and it will turn you around. It will take you back to within your zone, so you're not breaking any laws. Then, of course, you'll probably get some sort of a fine for going outside your 15-minute zone to begin with. Well, this is the sort of stuff they're doing, folks. None of it is designed to actually work. It's designed to lead you into this mainframe, lead you into this dystopia, and bankrupt all the companies along the way. See, all these companies that are producing these electric vehicles, you're not going to be able to sell them. So your company's going to go bankrupt because ultimately they only really want one company. They want something like Amazon that is going to supply everything. Everything. Just one big department store. You can buy everything in there, from the kitchen sink to a vehicle to a house to anything you want. It'll all be for sale on Amazon. Of course, you won't be buying houses, though. You'll be renting houses because they want everyone to be living in rentals, squeezing everybody out of everything that might lead them to freedom, give them any type of stability or any type of independence. They don't want that. They want you completely dependent upon government, which is why they're taking everybody's jobs and closing all these businesses and all this shit they've done through COVID to get you on this UBI, the welfare state. Once you're being paid by the government, then you have to do what you're told or you don't get paid. It's as simple as that. If you don't get paid, well, you don't eat, you don't do anything. You'll be an outcast, you'll be an undesirable, who have to go into their re-education centres to be re-educated. This is what they want, folks. This is where they're pushing things. And they're going hell for leather very, very fast to get this done. Because they know how many people are waking up is the problem. A lot of people are waking up, folks. Lots and lots of people are really getting it now. Lots of people are seeing what is happening. Which is why the government is, of course, doing what it can to protect us by attacking misinformation. There's a government campaign to combat misinformation. And what is misinformation? Well, of course, it's anything that you disagree with that the government says. Because the government could never lie. I mean, they could never do the wrong thing, folks. We've got to trust these people implicitly, despite of everything that they've done in the last few years, in the last few decades, last couple of centuries, you know.
Other day, another document release here in communist wannabe New Zealand. This document is particularly interesting. It comes from the Department of Internal Affairs, and today they released a document called Safer Online Services and Media Platforms. Because we all know how worried this government is about keeping you safe and not letting you make decisions as an adult or as an independent human being. Nay, the government needs to control what you think, how you behave, where you go in public, what you say and do every step of the way. Because that's just Labor's dream for how the real New Zealand should look. Not a bunch of individuals making their own life choices, just a bunch of numbers and names, loyal to the government and slaves to whatever they want you to think, do or say. They want to make sure that anything that is said on social media, they can control. They want to also make sure that they can ask the platform to instantly take down any content that they deem offensive or harmful, and they can regulate it instantly. They can do whatever they like, and every platform, if they say no, they can install a $200,000 fine per piece of content. That's what our government is wanting to do.
Government crackdown on misinformation. And not just in New Zealand, folks, they're doing it in Australia as well.
Social media companies will be fined millions of dollars if they allow the spread of disinformation and misinformation on their platforms in a new crackdown by the federal government. Communications Minister Michelle Rowland will draft legislation allowing the Australian Communications and Media Authority to impose industry-wide standards enforcing social media platforms to remove potentially harmful content. Fines for systemic breaches could amount up to $2.75 million or 2% of the company's global turnover if it is higher than the maximum penalty.
They're doing it worldwide. There is now a UN initiative called I-Verify. And I-Verify is the new fact-checking system put forth by the UN. So anything you want to do, you can just go to I-Verify and it will tell you what the government wants you to think is true. And if you decide to think otherwise, then you are a misinformationist and you must be dealt with. That's the way they want to take things, folks. It's pretty crazy. And really everything they give us is misinformation. Look at climate change. Look at the climate science. Remember we were supposed to all be living underwater by now? Al Gore said in 1995 that he expected all the coastal cities would be underwater by the year 2000. Here we are, like, over 30 years later, almost 30 years later, and yeah, I'm not really seeing this happening, Al. And look at the climate science, folks. This Aussie guy kind of nailed it. Check this out.
So I did as the government asked, and I looked at the science when it came to climate change, and this is what I found. According to government figures, Australia is producing 499 million metric tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. But what I also found is that one mature tree will absorb 48 pounds or 21.77 kilograms of carbon dioxide per year. And Australia currently has 24 billion standard-sized trees. absorbing 453 million metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. And that's just trees. It doesn't include any other plant life, and particularly doesn't include mangroves. And mangroves will absorb 50 times more carbon dioxide per year than a standard-sized tree. So why is the government hell-bent on cutting down trees in order to install solar farms when it seems quite obvious from the science that nature has already provided the solution to the problem?
Yeah, it kind of says it all, folks. So there's your climate change in a nutshell. It's a complete scam, and we've known this for a while. We've known for years that it's a scam, folks, and it is a scam, and it always will be a scam, and it always was right from the beginning. Like I've said to you before, if climate change is real, where's the quantifiable point? Where's the marker that they use to identify that baseline that they're measuring climate change by? They're not, because there is no baseline, because climates change all the time. That's the nature of climates. That's why we have a weather department. It's crazy, folks. It's crazy. Absolutely nuts. A bit wet around the place today, folks. Been a lot of rain here in Acapulco while I've been away. Yeah, but they don't want people questioning anything the government says, so crack down on misinformation. And to crack down on people in every way. And the legal system, folks, the stuff they do, the way they punish people for things, like punish people for misinformation or punish people for this or punish people for that. I mean, it's just ridiculous, folks. It's completely out of balance, all while they're promoting pedophilia. Like, for example, there's a guy who apparently hacked into the Premier League and live streamed the Premier League illegally. He was given 30 years in jail. 30 years, folks, for live streaming a football game or a rugby game or whatever the Premier League is. I don't know. I don't follow all their sports shit. But 30 years in jail for streaming the Premier League illegally. There was a guy who raped a 12-year-old who got 3 years in jail. 3 years in jail for raping a 12-year-old, 30 years for taking some money out of the pockets of the Premier League. Well, there's a few people there who could have paid for that live streaming, but they didn't because you live streamed it illegally. So we're going to put you in jail for 30 years for costing us some money. But we don't care about this little 12-year-old's life who's just been destroyed by a rapist. We'll just give the guy 3 years, pat him on the back and let him out in 6 months. That's the way it goes, folks. That's the nature of this system. It's absolutely outrageous, folks. But that's what they're doing. That's what all the LGBTQ stuff is about, folks. It's all promoting pedophilia. And you really got to wonder about society. I mean, I do what I can to try to protect and save this society and try to help lead it in some sort of a right direction. But you've got to wonder, a society that allows things like this. In the main street with kids watching, and you've got guys twerking in the main street in their underwear, and you've got naked bike riders riding through the streets in front of children, completely naked. A society that allows that. A society that would create something like this. I mean, there's a woman who asked the question, why is it that men are wanting to go into women's bathrooms because they're claiming they're women? Why aren't there any women wanting to go into men's bathrooms because they're pretending that they're men? And I guess there's ways of promoting that attitude, and so they invent little things like this. A she-we. I mean, like I said, folks, a society that would even invent that sort of a thing, a society that would allow these type of LGBTQ parades, twerking in front of children, guys in sadomasochism poses in the back of utilities, naked bike riders in front of children. Societies that would allow this, and societies that would write a book like this for children as well. I mean, what sort of disinformation are they spreading to people? Maybe we can use the government's new disinformation laws to attack people like this because males can't have babies. The miracle of male birth. Are you kidding me? How demented has our society become? I mean, a society that does this sort of stuff, you've got to wonder, is it really worth saving these people at all?
Crazy. Just with my tight man. You had to squeeze into that. And my little teeny self had to slip right on up in there.
Is it really worth saving any of this? I mean, the fact that there aren't people, more people, protesting about this and screaming out about this, the fact that there's even people, their parents there, cheering on these naked pedophiles as they ride past their children twerking. And like we said at the beginning of this whole thing, folks, back in 2020 when this first started, I said to you, this is the big end game, and the goal is your children. They are coming for your children. And now they're marching down the street just telling you that as well.
Indicted we fall, indicted we stand, indicted we fall, indicted we stand, indicted we fall. If Trump get locked up, it's a wrap for us all. This a witch hunt.